So, welcome, and I appreciate you being here, Julian. So, what we thought we'd talk about this morning is we're both, I guess, we could tell you a little bit about us, but I don't want to waste your time. We both have got a pretty good footprint online. Just look us up. But background is marketing, doing a lot with AI. Julian's got a lot of similar experience. And a question that I'm getting asked quite a bit lately is, do I build my own app or do I buy something off the shelf? And I know a lot of business owners are at that place where they're getting comfortable, they're really starting to dig into AI, but not far enough where they could take their eye off the business to build an app. But, you know, with the ability to rent somebody else's right now, there's just too much, I think, for me, instability of where it's going. And so I thought maybe we could have a conversation about it and see what you're seeing as well and what kind of suggestions you would have.
Right. Sure. Yeah, no, I look forward to it. There's a lot of ground there that we can cover.
Well,
I think we
so
have a
go
bit of
ahead and tell,
delay, but that's
yeah, there is a little bit of a delay. Go ahead and tell folks a little bit about your experience and what you're seeing.
um sure. So and again, thank you so much for having me. So I think that there's no I wish there was a simple answer. Like,
Mhm.
you are a Luddite, therefore don't buy, just use. You love tech, therefore go start building. I wish it was as clean an answer as that, and I don't know that it is. I think the answer. I think it depends on a couple things. One is a function of there is an element of interest, right? Like if you're like, I hate computers. I hate the clickety click, the tappity tap. It's not my thing. Um, uh, you know, and to the extent that I use it, I just want to push a button and
Mhm.
and have it work, kind of a thing. Okay, well then it's most certainly the question that most certainly in that case, then the answer is okay. Well, you probably shouldn't be going out and building your own software. Obviously, I wouldn't expect
Sure.
you to. Um, and then in some ways, there the question that some of those people will be asking, and this is to answer your question about what am I seeing, is that some people really the question isn't so much, well, should I or should I not? It's, well, what how does this affect me? Why do I don't even it's a bunch of hype, it's a bunch of buzz. I don't
Sure.
really get the whole AI. And there's legitimate, let's say, frustration in that they look online, they look on social media, and they see there's a bunch of AI slop, as everybody's upset about, right? And there's this general rejection. And so for that crowd, I would say, I get it. I
Mhm.
can appreciate where you're coming from, but the idea that you can just sort of ignore and avoid this technology seems a little naive to me. It is
Yeah.
it is coming. It's coming fast. It's changing fast. It's moving fast. It impacts our lives. It impacts our careers. It's very possible that let's say, like, people like Elon Musk, who predict down the line that productivity is going with through robotics and AI is going to become so incredible that there's it's going to have this massive deflationary impact, and we're going to be rich, and we're not going to need money at all and not
Oh,
need to
I think
work.
we're gonna go through some hell before that happens. I mean, so you play Elon on one
Mm,
side of that and then put Mo Gaudette on the other side of that, and you'll get some pretty, different perspectives. And, the crazy thing is I don't think enough people are listening to the different perspectives of what could be possible outcomes. There are some interesting takes. I don't think anybody really knows what's gonna happen. I mean, we find something new every day where maybe an LLM gets uh, hacked or not hacked, but it breaks out, and understanding what kind of risks are going to come along with this is going to be a big deal. I think what you said about building apps and trying to decide what you're doing. If you're selling a widget online, you're using some kind of software. right? You are either using a project management tool, something like Go High Level, ClickFunnels, I mean, a website, WordPress. So you're going to have a little bit of exposure to that, even if you're not the person using the technology. But for me personally, I mean, it has opened up a frontier of expansion and excitement, a little bit of terror. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm a realist, but I'm also an optimist, and I want to believe that people are going to, we'll be on the side of people using technology for good. But on the same token, I do this for a living, right? I work behind a screen and it is changing. I mean, I've been doing marketing. I've owned an agency since 2009. So I've been in the industry a long time. I came up when social media was just starting, and we thought that was the Wild West back then. I mean, this is different. I built an app, and we've talked about it. You and I have talked about it offline, that creates content. And then I built in the customer service part and the sales part and the marketing part. I got rid of 5 pieces of technology that I was paying for. And I built a Calendly version a couple weeks ago. The ability of what we can actually create is just crazy cool, but again, we don't know what's on the other side of that. And business owners that are not in this industry, meaning they're selling screwdrivers, um, they're like, I have no idea even where to start. Do I build something custom? Do I just rent something off the shelf? Do I just stay with the tech I already know right now before making any kind of change and see what happens? I am hearing that quite a bit. Let's just see what happens. I think they miss
Mm.
the moment though if they do that.
Exactly. I'm hearing a lot of that, and I'm also hearing a fair bit of, well, fortunately, what I do is safe because, and they have whatever reason. Like, I'll give a quick, example off the top of my head. I was speaking to an arborist the other day, and it's true. What
Ah,
he does is very complicated. It's dangerous work and so forth. And he's like, yeah, but how are they going to do? How are they going to cut down a tree? You have to figure out the angle of this and this one. I was like, how about like a drone cutter that just cuts the tree down from the top? And I could see his eyes kind of open up and going, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, that could
that could
work.
work.
So so, you know, and so I do get this sense of sometimes in a way it almost has this weird kind of like drug culture feel to it, right? Like
Mhm.
if you're
Yeah.
into AI like you and I are and we're coding with it, right? Then it's like, "Hey, this is exciting. Oh, you're into building with AI too. What are you building?" Right? And there's
Mhm.
this excitement around it. And then of course the people who are either fatigued by AI slop or feel threatened by it or just don't like it for whatever reason, then you get this kind of like those dirty hippies and their AI
Hippie.
kind of feeling,
I
which I
haven't
find
heard
very,
hippies yet.
you know,
Uh,
well, no, not quite hippie, but I'm just kind of like, you're just reminding me of that kind of like, you know, cultural divide of where it's,
yeah. Okay.
where some people just are against it and anti it. And as I said, or they just assume, oh, there's no way that a robot or an AI could possibly replace me. And I think this is the other side of that question, which is that there's a lot of people out there who might be like, well, I've never coded a thing in my life.
Right.
How could I all of a sudden, get into this, catch up on this?
Mhm.
And I think what you're discovering, I'm discovering, just about everybody is discovering, is that you come into that with, okay, here's what I do know. And then it snowballs, right? And next thing you know, you're like, oh, hey, but with the AI and and me following its direction or prompting it or asking it, I learned how to do this. And then the next thing you know is that thing that you just did is useful for something else. And then it's useful for something
Sure.
else. And the next thing you know, a in my case, in many ways, a project management software that I had started to build.
Nice. Oh, you're frozen. We lost you, Julian. Well, I'll give him a second, see if he comes back. It is very cool to see that we can create simple things now. I started my app probably 2 years ago to create this content end-to-end session where you could create content and it would also be the distribution engine, not just create the content itself. Nothing on the market exists like it. It took me 2 years to get it done because the technology wasn't there yet. And now that the technology is there, then we are able to do these things at scale. Being able to, Michael Christ is somebody that I've connected with here on Substack. He's built a bunch of one off software. He created his own version of Whisperflow that he calls Yada Yada. And I'm in a group with him and he let us demo it. And it's the same thing. And I think his team built it out in a couple weeks. So the coolness is being able to take something that we do on a regular basis and turn that into something else. I've eliminated all of my software except, Descript, which because I do quite a bit of video stuff in there, 11 Labs because I do some voice stuff, and Go High Level. And I think everything else I've been able to either build in myself or add it to something that I was already doing. It's pretty cool to be able to do this. Let me let Julian know I re-invited him. Gotta love tech, right? Let's see if we've got him back in here. Yeah, he's been re-invited. So how about you guys? What are you guys working on? Are you building apps to get rid of technology in your business? Or are you just using stuff off the shelf and waiting for something more stable to come along? I think folks like me, Jason is popped in here, and a few other builders, because we a big chunk of what we do for a living, it makes that transition into this world a little bit easier versus, like I said, a business owner that sells Yodas and is not spending so much time in the technology. It's a little bit harder for them to make this pivot, and I'm having to do a little bit more stepping through for them to decide what kind of technology they want to use. So Joel's chimed in. He says he mostly uses AI to save time on the mundane paperwork. Yeah, I get it. That helps for me. I'm still finding that I want to stay connected to that. So I'm using the stuff I actually am not enjoying or I would typically hire out to have done. That has been super helpful and building a system behind it. I'll give you guys a quick one. With this content system that I built, I had a customer that says, yeah, but it's not SEO specific enough for me to write content. And so what I did was I found somebody that I connected with as a client, and he's an SEO expert. So I had him walk me through step by step on how he builds and writes content. So we did like an hour and a half recording. I documented the whole thing and then I put it into both Claude and Codex and had it create an SOP for me. From there, I was able to take that very detailed SOP and create a workflow from it. So even though I wasn't an SEO expert, meaning writing the content, I was still able to lean into somebody that has that, knowledge in that industry to create a solid workflow from me. So from that, I took that, I built out local pages, I built out service pages and website content in a complete workflow, and it is fantastic what I can do with it. So even though I guess to go back to the app building thing, a lot of people will say, well, I don't have the expertise in one, two, or three things. You don't have to. Find somebody that does, get them on a call, record it, then reverse engineer into the workflow. And that worked really well. And
Right.
welcome back, Julian.
Yeah, thank you.
I was doing saving space for you while you were
Yeah,
rebooting.
you're wonderful, and I'm glad that we're it's working again. And I'm glad that I was able to give me some little context and kind of ease back into it. Um, Yeah, no, I think where you're going there in terms of the actual experience or what you can, how you can reach out to somebody, and learn and get that process going. It's very
Sure.
rewarding, as you said. Like,
Hmm.
I mean, all of a sudden you do one little thing, there's an efficiency gain, and then you just keep going saying, "Well, how far can I take this?" And next thing you know, you're like, "Well, wow, I've done a lot more in a lot less time than I originally,
Thought you could.
than I thought I
Yeah.
could." and where does this end? And the productivity of that is exciting.
It is. Well, just think about you and I. The first call we had, we've built similar products, but in a different industry to a different market. But you were able to show me your podcast workflow, and then you saw mine, and we were both able to get great ideas in addition to what we had already done. I mean, the collaboration is, worth anybody's time if that's the path you're on.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right, and that's a good point, right? Is that at the end of the day, we don't know where this is going. I think there's
Mhm.
obviously a kind of this almost that almost demonstrates what you're talking about, that this is all kind of converging, right? You're going to do
Yes.
something, and if it's cool and innovative, I'm going to look at that and I might want to copy it, right?
Right.
And exactly that. I don't begrudge anybody looking at what I'm doing and saying, "Hey, I like that. I'm going to try and do that too." Go for it.
Mhm.
Please catch up because
Yeah.
one, I've had a lot of fun doing it. I agree exactly. What we're doing is we are eliminating SaaS rent. That's the
Right.
pain point on the horizon. That's what I built my tool in anticipation of.
Mhm.
That exactly that everyone's going to be having all of these. Oh well, in order to keep up, I need to do this and I need to do that, and all of a sudden that's a rent, a monthly expense that's piling up. When in fact, at the end of it, there's really only a few AI models running it all.
Yeah.
Underneath it all, it's really just a few major players. And yes, whoever's the best, goes up and down by
Mhm.
the day.
Yeah.
But
Sure.
but at the end of the day, it's really just a few underneath it. And if you are not using the credits,
Mhm.
directly, then
Mhm.
you're being upcharged for them, right? And then that makes sense, right? Those who can
Mhm.
will, and those who can't don't. But the idea that you can't, mm, you know, y- I, I was more like you. I've been in the marketing industry for most of my career, and one of my advantages at the moment, I would say, is that I've worn just about every hat.
Mhm.
So that understanding of the various roles is what's giving me a certain advantage of how would that function in how would I, let's say, programmatically make all of this come together. Um, but
We are now the orchestrator, right?
right,
Yeah,
but
that's awesome.
but there were programmers and coders that I worked with, who were far better, more sophisticated than I ever was, and I always was quite jealous of the people who were amazing at JavaScript and could do sort of magic with that. And um, as I often say, to me, AI is look at it like a gap filler. It's a tool, right?
Yeah,
And that's the
for sure.
wonderful thing is it's not one thing. It's not like it's a wrench and you put it in a screw and you turn it. It's in my toolkit, where are my gaps? And how can I get the
Mm.
AI to fill that gap?
Mhm. Just so you know, I don't know how to code. I mean, I
Mm,
built probably 600 WordPress websites at this point, but I don't know how to code. I don't think the coding is as important as the industry knowledge behind what you're trying to accomplish. I
yeah.
I was able to build what I built because I have the experience, because I've been in so many different companies looking how the processes work. And it's a gift for me right now because that's how my brain works.
Hmm.
Right. So once getting all this stuff started, I have a very good friend of mine that's been in the industry as many years as I do. He's a big thinker, right? Very creative. He can write like nobody's business way before AI, right? Our skills came way before AI, but he's the guy that wants to go in, write the email, send the campaign, and be done with it. I'm like, okay, so what is the whole schedule of the campaign? How many are there? Where are the details? Right? I'm the one that wants to step through it step by step by step. He doesn't. And so
Right.
when I first built my app, I did a demo for him. I said, "What do you think?" And he says, um, I said, "Am I overdoing it?" He says, "Audra, you always overdo it." He says, "But that's why you're able to go to the depth that you are because that's the way your brain thinks." He's like, "I don't. I say send an email, and I say what prompt are we using? What LLM are we using? Who's the audience? Who's the tone of voice?" I will step into all the weeds of it, and I think people like that right now with some kind of specific knowledge can essentially build anything they want off the,
Uh,
just straight talking into the machines without knowing any coding.
100%. And by the way, here you and I are. We are very enthusiastic about AI. But the interesting thing that here's another observation, right, is that the people using it most trust it the least, right? And
Using it wait, let me think about that for a second. Using it the most, trust it the least. Okay, okay.
right? I
Yeah.
think this comes into what you're referring to in terms of experience. I can spit in a question to Claude, at any or Grok or any AI
Mhm,
model, and it is remarkable. It's amazing how it's likely to give me a very good answer. But in a lot of occasions, right, it'll say, "Oh
mhm.
well, that would require X, Y, and Z." And in many cases, I'm saying, yes, maybe. However, have you considered that we have already built this and we've already built that, and the
Right.
code for this exists here and the code for that exists there? Here, look at it. Now, what do you say? And it'll say, ah, good point. You're right. You have fixed this. You have built it. It doesn't know, right? And so w- as what you're talking about is it precisely right that the more industry experience or knowledge that you
Mhm.
have around something that you love, the more that is of huge value, right? It's one thing to say, you know build me a video, build me a tool that's going to help me create cool videos, right? Well, the AI is starting from a really far back lens here of,
Sure.
okay, well, how do I create videos? And that's complicated, and et cetera, et cetera. If you have experience in video production and how things get sequenced together or so on, you might
Mhm.
all of a sudden come up with an innovation with respect to that. It's not the best example that I'm coming with, but industry knowledge, experience counts for a lot, to your point. And I
Yeah.
think the older you are, the more of an advantage you have, not less.
Yeah, Lee says he doesn't agree with your statement. He says he doesn't trust it the
There we go.
least. I think the more you see it, the more you wanna question its answers. That's how it should be. And there's definitely a part of that that I agree with. For me, I think it's because I'm asking things that I already understand. I already know what the output I'm looking for is. So I don't
Mhm,
have to do a lot of debating back and forth. Now, if I put in a fresh idea or go into a topic that I know nothing about, then there is some back and forth. Like, I don't know. I'm going to take your conversation. I'm going to go verify it with Gemini, or I'm
mhm,
going to take it over here to Codex and let you, play you guys against each other. I do that quite a bit if it's in a domain that I don't have the expertise in.
mhm.
I don't use AI for a lot of personal stuff. I mean, maybe at Home Depot asking what tool to buy or something, but I've kind of kept my personal business out of it. Where I'm struggling with is I'm essentially teaching it the 20 years of experience I have
Right,
exactly step by step with every workflow, every process, every intellectual piece I've done. I'm essentially trading myself out of a job.
right,
But I'm okay with that. I mean, I understand the trade-off of what I'm doing, but I want it to be for a good reason.
yeah,
Right? Maybe it's future generations that come behind me. Maybe it's, teaching somebody that didn't have access to these kind of resources in a different country, or I want it to be for something good
yeah,
instead of I just gave it all my knowledge and then ends up getting used against me, which I'm not
yeah.
going to be happy with if that happens.
Right, right. Yeah, no, but I think yeah, and you and I have spoken about this before that,
Mhm.
we don't know where it's going. And as we were kind of alluding to, there is going to be a lot of copying and looking at what other people are
Yeah.
doing, and then people are going to be doing it themselves and so forth. So we don't know where that it lands, but you and I think both have the same instinct, which is to say, but the journey is worth it.
Yeah.
That in doing this, I am expanding my own skill set. I'm learning more, and there's a certain yeah, there's a productivity joy in it, as you were pointing out, right? It's like, there does seem to be these sort of two attitudes. One, people who are afraid that AI will replace them, and then people like yourself and myself who are enthusiastically replacing ourselves, saying,
Right.
this is how I did it. This is how I do that. Now I've created my own system. And it's funny, as you're pointing out, because this is I was recently just writing about how I've now entered this sort of surreal phase of the development process.
It's
Um,
crazy, right?
Very much so.
Yeah.
And in large part, and that's for a couple of reasons. One is that, uh, it's what I've been building is almost sort of the reverse blueprint, right? Normally, a business
Yeah.
starts off
Yeah.
small, right? It
Yeah.
starts off small, and as it grows, then it develops the systems and the tools and the software to manage itself. Whereas I'm creating the management layer and the software and the upfront as the product built
Mhm.
in many ways from within the product.
Right.
So that part of it I find very strange. Um, I think I think the singularity of it, and I'm sure you're finding that too, that you think, okay, this is cool. And then once I can get it to this point, maybe one day it could be this much and I'll have this many people working with me.
Mhm.
And it keeps getting more sophisticated and I don't keep needing to add anybody. And I'm
Yeah,
getting there.
it's a weird place to be right now for sure. I mean,
Mhm.
things like you, I would hire out all these years, and I'm finding less and less, some of my clients, I still have humans writing the copy or their,
Right.
blog content, their service business, they have physical products, I mean, that is still a big deal to get done. And I'm still using humans for them, but I'm finding, say I was using 2 or 3 different companies, I'm down to 1 now
Yeah.
because the content, everything that we were kinda doing from a, specification standpoint and producing to get the omni-channel kinda marketing done is very, very different now, where you're finding customers, how you're finding them. Funnels are struggling because customers are so fatigued from seeing the same thing all the time. I mean, it's very interesting.
Yeah. And I do, this goes back to what we were talking about at the top of this conversation. I do see a lot of people saying, oh, I'm moving offline more, right? They've kind of had it with AI or they've
Yeah.
had it with social media, and
Social
understandably
media
in
definitely is
particular.
dying out. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
So people are kind of sick of it. And I quite appreciate that. I mean, that is actually that's another one of the weird sort of surreal ironies about this is that I'm building this tool in large part because I'm trying to eliminate all of those nuisance repetitive tasks. And the funny thing about that is that in building it, in testing it, I'm doing a tremendous amount of repetition as I, take my new code and upload it and test it. And now, re-upload it, test it. And I'm like, wow, I am doing a ton, nothing but repetitive tasks here all day long. Um, but what's the why? Why are we doing it? Well,
I don't know.
I
That's a
think
good
the answer,
question.
I think the answer is because at the end of the day, we're meaning seeking creatures, right? We're not, it's not really about the money. It's not about the whatever. It's that the idea of being replaced by robots. It's like, well, no, I want to do something. I want to achieve something. Right. And so
Mhm,
I think you and I are having fun, just seeing where we can take it and building our own
mhm.
tools that allow us eliminate. Okay, there goes my that expense for Calendly. I've
They're
swat.
not gonna love this.
No, yeah, I know. Well, yeah, exactly. We've both built our own Calendly. No, but
Yeah.
there's a ton of tools. Like I used to, so many things that I thought were great. I used to think the idea of an AI accountant was crazy, and then I found Smart Clerk and thought it was cool,
Uh,
and then I
I
built.
haven't taken money online yet.
No,
I'm
yeah,
not quite there.
well, now I've built my own.
Oh, you did? Good for
Yeah,
you.
well, the readers have gotten so good. I used to play with this stuff for ages, and PDF readers were not
Yeah.
that. It was very hard. You were
Yeah.
spending a lot of time trying to be like, in this area, on this area of the page, that's where you will find this information. Um, and nowadays, and your workflow changes day to day.
Yep.
Nowadays, I'm just taking screen captures of everything, and pasting it right away into Claude, saying, "Here's what's happening," and it reads the whole image and the whole picture for me. Um,
So
so
are you tied to one LLM that you do all your work
no,
in?
no, no, not at all. I do. I will admit that have been Claude centric. So
Have you?
yeah, well, certainly from a coding programming in terms of how I was building, um, how I was building the platform itself from a coding base in the early, at very, very beginning. Grok was actually involved a fair bit. I found that
Mhm.
Grok
Yeah.
was doing a very good job with code. And Grok would also, at the very beginning, I used to use Grok a lot more to create a prompt for
Oh,
whatever other
interesting.
LLM
Okay.
that I was using. I found Grok was good at the prompting side of it. I would discuss with
Mhm.
Grok what I wanted to achieve, narrow it down into a good
Okay.
prompt for, let's say, something like Claude. And then similarly, I just found that it was very good as a background LLM in terms of achieving the tasks that I wanted an LLM to do, right? So
Okay.
when it came to writing, scripting, research, analysis, anything kind of coding related, Claude had an advantage. But it's not the only one, and certainly, and I wouldn't advise people to kind of totally be locked into
Yeah.
Claude. But my platform, I'd say there's three, let's say, gambles that I've made with my platform.
Okay.
So one was that early on I said, wow, like this, I was just blown away with the code that Claude was producing, and as a, let's say, primary default AI LLM that will run the engine behind it. That was sort of
Mhm.
gamble number one. Gamble number two, um, was this prediction of SaaS fatigue and in the
Yeah.
the another big one is the fact that I'm building this platform as database free. I'm using flat JSON
Oh, that's right.
files.
You said that. I gotta have
Uh,
a database. I gotta have something to look at.
yeah, I know a lot of
I'm
people
not
do.
good enough in my skills to go without a database.
It's I hear it all the time of you're going to need one eventually. And I love the question and I love the debate because I don't know at the moment. I haven't found that limit or
Good for
that
you.
ceiling. I think and it makes things very fast. It makes things very
Mhm.
easy and fast to deploy. Um, they might be right. That at some point, this will scale to a point where it's like, okay, we can't do this anymore.
Mhm.
But I think I've built in some contingencies to deal with that. I built a paste board. That's a good idea. You
What
should
is it?
build a paste board. So basically, what I thought was, well, how do people? How do people use data? How do people use the information? At the end of the day, you don't really. The fact that you have a database is, well, that's how we've done things historically, right?
Yeah.
Um, But in reality, nobody wants to go into a database to go and find all the information that you want. So what I've done is I've basically indexed all the modules that have information that you might
Okay.
actually use, things like
Okay.
images, things like a script.
Mhm.
And so now I can go into any individual one of my modules. I can go into the pasteboard area, and there it's got all
Baseboard.
the different,
Okay.
yeah, all the different, it's got all the different modules that have data, things like pictures,
Okay.
scripts, etc. And I can go through each of those and say, oh, add this picture to the pasteboard, add this script, add this whatever. And now it's omnipresent. It's like a little like widget down at the bottom. Now my pasteboard and its items are down at the bottom of my screen.
Okay.
And anytime I'm now going into some other module where I might want to use the image, copy paste the script, everything's in my pasteboard.
Available there. That's
Yeah.
good. That's
Yeah.
good.
So it's sort of like
You
a
know,
database.
it's your workaround of having to commit to a database is what you're
Yeah.
telling me.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Good
Okay.
interpretation. Mhm.
So, for me, I don't want to just use one large language model. I want the option of being able to swap between them based on whatever kind of output I'm getting that day. So, when I started the app that I built, I use a plugin, or I guess it's a platform now. When it first came out, it was a plugin called Open Router. And what it does is you just pay a small fee where you load your account there, and then it gives you access to any of the models that you want to be able to use. So when I built my app, you literally have a drop down that you can pick which model you want to run that task or that email sequence or social media content or whatever through, um, based on whatever kind of output you're getting. And then it also tracks which large language model you used for that kind of output. And the reason for me is like Claude, I'm not loving Claude right now.
Mm,
I mean, after Fable came out,
mm.
it talks too much. It goes into too much explanation. I mean,
Yeah.
it's almost like it burns tokens for the sake of burning tokens. I'm like, dude, I don't need to know all that. How about
Yeah.
I ask you a question, you give me an answer. That's it.
Yeah.
Because then you're end up I mean, end up getting fatigued from having to read all of it. And I was like, okay, the 32 paragraphs you just wrote, I needed like two to answer
Right.
my question. Stop doing it. So I'm
Yeah.
not loving it right now. This 4.8 is just not sexy as it was before. I was able to really move through work quicker
Yeah.
without having to feel fatigued of trying to um it's like it almost has to you ask it a question, it's sharing all the reasoning, the thinking, the next steps, why it's making the decisions or the recommendations, and then it gives you the answer. And that's fine. I understand it's trying to model my brain framework of how I got to that place, but I don't need to hear it. Just,
Yeah.
run it in the background, give me the answer, build whatever you're going to build behind me. But I do like the flexibility of being able to swap with any of the things that I'm building.
Mhm.
If Codex isn't able to produce a result or solve a problem, I move over to Gemini or, whatever. I have installed Hermes and played with that quite a bit. I'm not loving it. It's
Yeah.
again such a rudimentary. I think you must have to be a really just a builder. I want to build because I want the result, right? I don't want to build for the sake of building because I don't love that. I mean, it's
Mhm.
fun or it's interesting to be able to go through that process, but I'm really more focused on the end result of what I'm getting out of the app. I
Mhm.
want the usage. I want the hours taken off my plate. I want the automations done. And that's why I spend the time building. And if it going to something like Hermes, you're starting way from the beginning.
Yeah.
It's almost a backwards roll for me.
Yeah, no, that's right, and there's a few points in what you're saying there. One is same thing, like, I was speaking to somebody the other day, and they were very enthusiastic about Hermes, and so I started to look into it. But that's how we kind of find out about these things. I mean, the reality is, as you're pointing out, there are just so many different models. There's so many different in tools and innovations and approaches that people are taking that no one can really kind of I think there is the odd person who's actually like, you know, consuming every single release of every single model as the second that it's out, and they've unpacked every little element of what it
Mhm.
can do. Um, um, I think you're right that talk to people, you find out who's doing what with what, and then work with that and grow it from there. And precisely as you're pointing out, things change over time. I do agree with you that lately Claude does seem to be consuming. I'm running out of credits, running out of time
Yeah,
a lot faster. And I had a very similar experience in terms of testing out Fable. I was like, this is too much
yeah.
for what I'm using. I'm not building a rocket ship here. Um,
Come on,
it,
not yet, right?
not yet, not yet. We'll see where this goes. Yeah, you're right. But Yeah, there's no, uh, I'm not exactly. You switch around from models. You can train, and that's I think an important the other side of it, right? You can tell it,
Mhm.
this is how I want my output. This is how I want my answers. Here's the skill that I want you to have. When I enter this, I don't give me any of this information. I'm tired of a bunch of sort of repeated lines where it's like,
Oh, the
oh,
patterns are your
oh, let me
mind.
unpack that for you. Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Good instinct. You have a good instinct to do this, and it's repeating the same kind of. It's like, oh, I keep hearing the same. Just
Yeah.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Once it gets too repetitive, I gotta switch models. I can't do it.
Mhm,
But,
mhm,
in its defense, when I built the app the first time, I was using Airtable and an app called Softer.
mhm,
Softer IO is a kind of a block where it works in tables from Airtable, and then blocks where how you're able to build it. The challenge with it was, it's not sexy. It's
mm,
just so Excel spreadsheet looking. Um, you could not do at the time when I first started there, you could not do custom coding, you couldn't do HTML to try to style things, and it felt super clunky. I also had to build in, so I use Make instead of Zapier or N8N. Um, because I something had to run the automations in the back, and Airtable wasn't advanced enough at the time. So by the time I fast forward a year or so, by the time I finish building the app, I have 48 make automations. I'm like having anxiety of clients or customers using the app and one of the make automations going down or timing out for somebody else, or because I built it multi-tenant.
mm,
So everybody has a
yeah,
workspace in one database. And luckily AI advanced enough where a guy that I met on Substack says, well, Audra, why didn't you build into Supabase and use Lovable? And I was
mhm,
like, what? Wait, what? So went down that rabbit hole, and before you know it, I'm rebuilding the whole damn thing, kind of like Michael does. Every time you turn around, you're building something new. But I rebuilt the whole app in Lovable with Supabase as my back end. And Supabase was actually pretty easy. If you've used a database like Monday or Airtable or something like that, it's very user friendly. It's stripped way down compared to what Airtable is, but that's okay. It does what it's supposed to do. Completely rebuilt the app with more functionality, better UI, and I got rid of 46 of those automations because I was able to
right,
build them into the system. So I have
yeah,
3 now. And
and
the
I
3 automations I have are for me, for my work process, not even for my customers.
Right, and you're hitting on something right there for sure, because exactly that when you and I first come into
Mhm.
an AI model like that, and then we say, okay, well, here's what I'm trying to achieve, and as you point out, it's going to say, well, oh, and here's a whole essay about how one goes about doing it, and what you and I are actually doing is saying, hold on, I this is the job. This is when I ask this question,
Good luck.
this is the output that I'm expecting. And when it doesn't give it at first, what you and I are creating are the tools, the models
Mhm.
that say, okay, when so user puts this in or gives this amount of information, this is your job for this part of it.
Mhm.
This is the job for, and we're breaking it up into
Mhm.
our procedural or mental processes so that
Mhm.
there's a tool that does it the way that we, rather than just like this vague, oh well, you could do this or whatever and
You
prove,
can't.
it's as everybody's sort of saying now, but garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah.
And you and I are building the system that says, no, this is step one. And step one
Mhm.
is just this. And no,
Mhm.
this is how step one is done correctly. This sort of ties in the
Right.
whole conversation, right?
Right.
How do we know that? We know that from work experience. We
Right.
know that, well, hold on, this is the script is important at this point, um, how that ties in, how does this all come
Mhm.
together? You and I have that experience. And it's really a function of saying, well, what was the process when we used to do this more
Manually.
analog, manually? Uh,
The 2 years ago? I mean, right.
yeah, yeah, no, I know. That's the weirdest part is For me, exactly. 1 year ago now seems like ancient history.
And we're like aging in dog years or something.
Yeah.
AI is aging us in dog years.
Yeah, yeah.
This
Yeah,
has
exactly.
yeah,
S the number of times
crazy.
that Yeah, the number of times where I've just sort of like, "Okay, and then we'll do it this way," and so on, and all of a sudden it does something much faster and more I'm like, "You couldn't do that yesterday."
Mhm.
I mean, and then I'll give you I mean, that's a huge one, right?
Yeah.
My whole system, exactly the way that it works is that I didn't want big bundles of code, and here's your
Mhm.
JavaScript, and here's your, HTML page, and here's this file. I wanted a system that basically where I said, "Here's the tool that I want. Give me one zip file, and I'll now load that into my tool, and it'll unpack it and run right away." That's how I wanted my
Mhm.
tool to work. So it took me a long time to build the framework for it
Yeah.
to for that. Now that Claude knows, okay, this is how Julian does things. This is how he builds things. This is what a zip module does. It must have a dashboard card. It must know whether it's going on the main dashboard or the administrator dashboard. These are the
Sure.
details. And just one little step, one little process at a time. And next thing you know, you've got a plugin, a module that represents what that one person, what that job was, right? Where
Right.
to pull it together. So we're just
Well, I think
re-engineering
it's
what we're
training us too, right?
yeah.
So when I just think of one workflow, you do step 1, 2 through 10, right? But then when I tried to do that, when I tried to build a workflow, 1 through 10 didn't work
Mhm.
because I gave it 1 through 10, but I didn't give it 1A, 1B, 1C, 2A, 2B with those little tiny micro steps in between, which is just unconscious thinking. We're unconsciously not documenting that in a workflow because we forget that we were actually thinking about it, right? We've done this so many times that you don't actually pull out every single step. And then I started realizing it just doesn't know enough. It can't produce the result I'm looking for if I haven't given it all the details. So I went back and I started reworking it, and I got to a place where I would say, okay, what's next? Okay, I would do this. Okay, what's next? What's next? And until I had completely exhausted that frame of thinking, the
Yeah.
workflow wasn't finished. But what I realized was I had to give it enough information to produce the result I was looking for without having the actual experience of doing the thing.
Right.
And
Right.
that was such an unlock for me. After that, I was like, oh shit, I got this. Now I can do any of these. This is super easy now. But what I find is once you're able to get through that and really map it out to that place, then you're able to scale them. And
Mhm.
then you're able to not just scale them, but connect them. Right. So I built something called what I call a content stack. In typical marketing, everything is very siloed. You have SEO, you have your email, you have your social media, you have your website. It's very siloed. It has been since the beginning of internet marketing. The way that I build is I want everything connected into an ecosystem where the blog post has the social media connected to, that has the emails connected, that has the newsletters, that has the images in one stack. And all that content is there. You're not looking for things. It's not fragmented anymore. And the reason I share it is not I got nothing to sell anybody, but is building in a way of you're not just maybe phase one is replace that first tool. I have
Mm.
Calendly. I want to get rid of Calendly. I build a Calendly. But how
Mhm.
does Calendly fit into the rest of your workflow? Right? It should connect the dots to your podcast, to your meetings, to your sales calls, whatever it's going to be, and start building an actual ecosystem for that. That's really where you start winning with building this stuff off the shelf.
I think you're right, and I think that's exactly what the evolution is. It starts off if you're just getting started and you're intimidated by this, right? As I said, you pick one little thing, one repetitive task. It starts there. I'm going to eliminate this thing that I
Right.
use that usually I spend hours just going through this manually. And boy, wouldn't it be nice to have a tool? You describe it. Here's the tool. Okay, now you've done that. And then, as you're pointing out, once you've built a bunch of these tools, and then you start to say, oh, well, what would be really interesting is all of these different parts or these aspects of a job. How can I fit them together into an integrated system? That's how I work. So I think you're right. First of all, that's what the fun or the joy is that we get to build tools and workflows that work with how we individually actually work. There is
Yeah.
no one rule. This is how it's done.
Mhm.
And then
Right.
I don't know if the other interesting thing about all of this that we're talking about is that I don't know if I imagine you've probably had a few instances where you're saying, okay, and then this is what the process is next. So, but all of a sudden it dawns on you where you say, well, wait a minute, why do we do it that way? Do we have to do it that way still? And I'll give you a very good example, right? Which is video production and video tools are very hard
Yeah.
in this space, but that's a part of the industry that I've been involved in a while, so I'm kind of interested in it. Typically speaking, historically speaking, the script might be something that drives and directs what's happening with a video, but in many cases, in a lot of agencies where I would work, in fact, I would be the guy who would record a scratch track, which is basically just a rough take of the script
Oh, okay.
that a videographer would use to roughly time it. And then somewhere down at the end of the process, we'd go into a studio and we'd really record the narrator. And my point is that for a lot of people, video production, the voice gets tacked on at the end. And then the motion designer is sequencing and just doing little tweaks to make sure that, when the narrator says this, that's where this visual is lining up. So that's the way that I've done it for years. But it occurred to me because I've been using 11 Labs on voice
Mhm.
generation, that when it
Mhm.
sends you that voice generation, well, it also sends it with timestamps. And what that means is that therefore now you can say, okay, well, so when you deliver me the script, deliver me the timestamps for each of these points, and now align the animation and so on to sync with those timestamps. So the script is now first in the queue, not last in the queue, right? So and again,
Very
that's just an example of where the end result was that I was basically because the way this tool was working was taking either was it Kling or Gemini or whatever, but
mhm.
basically creating little like 4-6 second clips and then stitching them
Oh,
to and then
huge
taking
ma yeah.
take the end point of one as the start point for your next one, and then you end up with a seamless video,
Mhm.
um, and have that sync. And so anyway, so that's the sort of a bit of the technical of that. But
Yeah.
it was using the timestamps and the audio front loaded as part of the process, completely changing what the process was.
Just you guys, just so you know, Justin and I have spent a couple hours on Zoom geeking out on all the cool stuff that we've been able to build because of AI, and we've got a lot of similar background. So it's easy to go down a rabbit hole of explaining, well, what if you did this? And how about this? So I built a whole podcast workflow because I'm relaunching my podcast. That is a plug called The Next Blueprint, and it'll be coming to channels near you. But after we talked, I started going through that process again, and I built out a customer form, or not a customer, a guest form. And the guest fills out the information. I was like, okay, I still got to go research you. I still got to find out more about you, how you're showing up in the world, what kind of experience you have. And I was like, what if I built a workflow to go do the research for me? So I did. So I built it in a prompt that I get to select saying, okay, go based on the information that guest has shared, go to the internet and research them. It brings back, this is Justin, this is what he does, this is where he works, this is how he's showing up, all those kind of things. And I was like, okay, that's cool. So based on his experience, I still got to write interview questions or I still got to figure out how the interview is going to go. So built another workflow that says, okay, now based on what you know about this guy, write me 10 unique interview questions that I could explore. So now when I go to look at it, I've already got a good foundation of who you are, what kind of
Mm.
topics I could cover with you. And then when I go to do my research, It's really just verifying or see if anything sparks from what I was already provided. And I was like, damn,
Mm.
I mean, that saves you just little tiny hacks like that, 10 minutes here, half hour here. I mean, those things add up. And to build those two things took me like 20 minutes.
Yeah, you know what it is I think people are finally, people like yourself especially, it's that's what you're starting to adopt a true coder mentality, right? And the way that I describe this is programmers are by nature fundamentally lazy,
Are
right?
they?
Yes.
Any coders on here want to
Hold on,
defend
hold on,
that?
hold on. But let me be clear about that, right? There's a difference between actual laziness and fundamental laziness, right? So
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
fundamental laziness is basically this is, a programmer will gladly spend 72 hours straight drinking Red Bull, creating a little widget that's going to eliminate that 30-second repetitive task that they have to
Yeah,
do
I guess I have fallen into that.
every day. And what's interesting about all of that, right, is that is an investment in the future, right? In other words,
Okay.
that repetitive task that maybe you do every day for only 30 seconds, well,
Yeah.
in order for you to, if it's going to take you it's not going to take you 72 hours these days with AI to build a widget to deal with that thing, but if it's going to take you 72 hours to build that widget, okay, you know, let me put it in the older days when we used to work at companies with stuff like this. It's like, okay, you're going to spend 72 hours. It's a 30-second task. You are going to have to work at this company for 60 years before
To
it
work it
adds
off.
up. So before that amounts to the 72 hours that you spent building the tool to save you the time. Why do we do it? Well, because we just find that little task
Yeah.
annoying, and the satisfaction that we built a tool that now says, and now I don't do it, click, right? That's exciting. That's invigorating. There, for some reason, I get a kick out of it.
Yeah, I do too. Are
Right.
you finding you have extra time now? Or are you filling it with more AI projects?
I admit guilty as charged that I just keep adding on. It's not I am let's say my time is more flexible.
Okay.
I'm enjoying, like, I mean, I'm back to a point where it's like, I love what I do. Like,
Good.
right,
That's good. Yeah.
Um, and it's not, I think we all sort of go through these ebbs and flows in our
Yeah.
career. But for me in particular, I think the AI, like I said, it's this gap filler. It's this synergy
Mhm.
where all of a sudden all the pieces are coming together, and all the things where all the barriers that I might run into previously, where it's like, oh, I could take it this far,
Yeah.
but I just need a good JavaScript guy, or I need a good videographer guy, or I need this person, or whatever it was. And there would always be some barrier. And now it's at a point where it's kind of like, well, how can I figure out how to do this myself? And
Pretty
this,
awesome, right?
yeah, this is awesome. Um, and I think, and then there's another side of it, which is that I just have a certain odd kind of confidence in that the effort, the
Yeah.
journey, sometimes, right? Like, that's the funny thing about when you have a vision for anything, right? It's
Mhm.
that the reality, the actual path almost never maps onto the actual one that you've
Yeah.
envisioned, right? It's
Sure.
you envision it's the journey that of getting there that you end up, it's just in the doing that you get somewhere. Whether you got exactly in the place that you were aiming for, whether you got there in the path that you were expecting to take, I don't think is the point. I think the challenge and the fun and of, like, can I do this now?
Mhm.
Can I eliminate that job? Can I create something that produces that now where the output is better, faster, cleaner, all of these things, and you just keep going at it. And I think there's a dopamine sort of feedback cycle
There
that
is definitely a
you get
dopamine
where
thing.
you're like, can I do this? That seems a little complicated. I did it. Whoa. All right. Well, now what can I do? And you go on from
Yeah.
there. So
I
yeah.
think there's gonna be a new, what would I call it? Not a disease, but a psychological,
AI psychosis.
yeah, that's gonna come from this for builders that finish the build And
Yeah.
then there's a little bit of a letdown. It's almost like I achieved that goal. Damn, now what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
So I thought it would have taken me a lot longer than what it has to build what I have. And then as I finish it, I'm like, I gotta go find something else to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like bored with this now. I need something else. So there's definitely gonna be some kind of psychosis that's gonna come from
Of
this.
one-upping ourselves, yeah, constantly
Yeah.
one-upping the job that we
Yeah.
did before.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I mean, I do believe that it is very important. At the end of the day, technology is here to serve us,
Yeah.
right? And we and I hear where a lot of people are coming from when they say, I'm just getting off it, or I just want to use it less. All the power to you, right? Because,
Mhm.
if it's not serving our lives, if we're serving it, that's sort of against the
Mhm.
point.
Sure.
Um, how it's how can we use? But I think people n- need to look around the corner and start thinking about what are the implications of that, both what you were saying off the top of this, right? Both in terms of what's we're excited about and what are those
Mhm.
risks. So, you know as I said, for example, like whether it's the arborist example that I used at the top of this, or whatever the case might be, the idea of, I think most people, what they want is the robot that does the laundry and the cooking and all that. Okay, so fine. So we get a bunch of robots that do that. We will get there. At which point,
Sure.
okay, that frees up your time. So what are you going to do with that time? Right?
Well,
Like,
here's the crazy thing. You can hire somebody now to do that stuff. Why do you
mhm.
gotta wait for a robot?
I guess because you're paying for it once, it's gonna end up being cheaper. You can abuse that robot and give it crap,
Oh,
and then
no,
and they're
that's
not
the
going to,
worst.
yeah, and they're not going to, you can tell it it's an idiot, and it's not really gonna do anything about it. I don't know. It's a good question. You're right. You can hire somebody to do just
You
about
can
all
do
these
that
things.
now. I mean, so what are we waiting for? I well, I mean, it's humans, right? Humans are always waiting for something else. What's
Mhm.
next? What else can we achieve? What else can we do? But sometimes you gotta slow down enough and say, we got it pretty good right now.
Yeah.
We're gonna look back at this 10 years from now and say, "We were at the beginning when AI started." And that is pretty awesome. Again, I don't know where this is going, and I imagine we're gonna see a lot of, negative stuff that's gonna come from it, and we're learning and society's adapting, but, we're making history right now,
Mhm.
and that is a pretty exciting time to be involved and be alive. And if you lift up just a little bit, right, out of our projects, out of the things that we're doing, the cool things in our little matrix that we live in, the rest of the world doesn't.
Mm.
I at least was feeling very behind, especially because I would go on YouTube and I would find all these builders doing all this cool stuff. And then I would step out and I would go out into the real world and they're like, "What are you talking about?" I mean,
Yeah.
I'm doing the same thing I did yesterday, or, yeah, I heard a little bit about it, but I'm not really doing anything with it. And I was like, okay, Audra, slow down.
Yeah.
Maybe it's me, it's pressure I'm putting on myself to get advanced in this technology. The average person is not.
Yeah.
And even when I go in and talk to clients today, these are multi-million-dollar companies. They're just at the beginning of all this, right? We
Mhm.
get to hop in, break shit, do fun things, and bigger companies, what is the legal? What are the privacy policies? What do we do with our customers? How is this data being treated before they ever build widget one? So that, get in and break stuff fast is definitely a gift for people like us.
Yeah, I think I think the issue there is that those large companies, they don't realize the advantages that you and I are creating
Yeah.
for ourselves as individuals. So,
Mhm.
while large companies are basically in this in the current space of saying, "Hey, we got to get everybody back in the office because
Mhm.
we're realizing that, they were a little more efficient when everybody was in the office together, working together,
Mhm.
right? Meanwhile, you and I are
Efficient or accountable, right?
well, again,
That's
good
a
question, good point, good point. Good point, right? But as they're doing that, they're basically saying, okay, so let's go back into where we're gonna own an office space and we're gonna have a bunch of
Mhm.
people, working together and we'll make. Meanwhile, you and I are sitting here saying, hold on, there used to be there was somebody who would do this job. I wonder if I can program that one. Okay, now I've got an AI that does that. All right, there used to be this one. And so as I was saying earlier on, like I'm almost blown away at the point that I'm now reached a capacity, a functionality that is
Mhm.
beyond where I expected to be without adding people.
Yeah.
And so what's happening is you and I are becoming, solo machines that are able to do an enormous amount compared to a team. And if anything, all of those, unfortunately, right? That's just the
Sure.
reality of it. The more people
Yeah.
you bring into it, the more complications, politics, drama, whatever the case might be. So you and I are individually becoming slowly, but right, that they might be the big giant behemoth ship with,
Sure.
whatever, how many room, they might have 50 employees. Sometimes there are days when I just think I can outcompete a team of 50. Um,
It's first time in history. Yeah.
I can pivot, I can move. They are
Yeah.
big giant ships and they sort of list as they turn.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I can adapt on a dime. So when I started this, as I said, the project management tool
Mhm.
was really kind of the heart of the whole thing. And I knew I was nowhere close to what Basecamp was, and and I would think there's no way I could be.
Are they still around?
They're still around charging, a huge monthly fee per
Are they?
seat, right?
Mm.
And now I have my project management tool. I have a little toggle where it's like add each step myself or just ask AI to flesh out the whole waterfall Gantt
For
chart
you.
for me. And it
Nice.
does it. And now I can manipulate, edit, keep track of any project that I wanted the way people used to.
That's stupid fun.
So and so what was there, what was Basecamp charging per seat per user per month? Uh, why spend it? So exactly, if in some ways this circles back right back to the very top
Yeah.
of this,
Where we
right?
started.
Which is that, if the idea of eliminating those costs is exciting to you and you want to learn, look at us and you'll see that what we're saying is that we're kind of having fun doing it while we're doing it. And if you don't want to do that, you really then come and talk to us, and
Yeah.
we'll do it for you.
Well, you can do it for them, but I can at least teach them how to do it. Yeah, we've been on for quite some time, so we'll wrap up here. I so appreciate you being here and all of you that have stuck around for my first live. I promise it'll get better. We'll be more organized, but there's a lot going on and there's a lot of things to consider how this affects your business. I mean, that's really my lane. It will be focused on business and money, how it ties to your business, and then how AI and technology are changing things for all of us in real time. And it's a tough conversation, but we need to really get down, not just the for me, I don't want to just follow the hype. I had to actually just stop following it because I wasn't getting anything done. Every time I turned around, there was something new. And I was like, wait a second.
Mm,
Marketing is still marketing, sales is still sales. Let me go just focus on that and then how AI affects that single task. And then I was able to actually get a lot of value out of using AI. Before that, it was just, you guys, if I showed you my make automation, I got like three or 400 in there I built. And I'm like, okay, I built it. Now what do I do with it?
yeah,
It's not actually a workflow I use, doesn't tie to the rest of my system. Okay, that was a waste of 4 hours.
yeah. Just,
But, it was
just
good experience. It's teaching me the logic. I mean, I was definitely schooling myself during that time, but I think it's just really important to get in the weeds and say, okay, I'm trying to do this. How does AI fit? Or maybe AI doesn't.
right.
And the task should just stay a manual task for now. And that's
Yep,
okay too, right? But
yep,
it's focusing on really how are you running the business today? Is AI going to help you make more money, generate more leads, or save your team time? For me, if it's not hitting one of those three, I'm not doing it right now. I'm going to go on to something else.
Yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah.
I hear where you're coming from, and that makes a lot of sense. And I wish upon a lot of people that same journey,
Yeah.
right? Because there is something sort of individually expansive. I think what you're talking about is I've never quite felt my own neuroplasticity at this quite at
At
level,
this
right?
level.
Right? Well, you've known that if you've ever, let's say, signed up for a program or a course or whatever.
Hmm.
I often think back to Music Technique when I was studying sound design and studio engineering. It was invigorating. I found it very interesting. It was stuff that I liked, and so
Hmm.
I enjoyed what I was learning. But this is sort of that times 100, where
Yeah.
I literally say, geez, where I was a month ago is not where I am today, and wow, this is great. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, but so thanks for having me, and thanks for
Oh, thanks for being
doing.
here.
I think what you're doing is really cool.
Mm.
I think anybody who's tinkering away and building in public like this,
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea for exactly share. As I said, I've got no problem with anybody sort of looking at what I'm doing
Yeah.
and
Please
copying it and saying, "Oh, I'm going to try and I see what he's doing. That's kind of a neat. I could do it better. I could do it this way." Please
do
go
it.
ahead. Go for it.
Yeah.
Have fun,
Yeah.
and join the party.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think it's a good idea, and I think it's helpful for people to just give them that little nudge and
Kick.
and and that little kick.
Come on, you guys. If we can do this, you can do this. There's no
Yeah,
excuse.
that's right.
Don't be afraid of it. Just get in. We all start in kindergarten, right?
Yep, yep, and it gets fun.
W
It gets fun. It
It
really
does get
does.
fun. I'm in,
Everyone
like, 3rd grade now. It's super
yeah.
fun.
Yeah, everyone I know who's doing it, like I said, everyone I know who's doing it is enjoying it. Here we are. Like I said it was becoming like
Mhm.
almost like drug culture. It's like you gotta do it, try it. No, no, it's
No
fun.
peer pressure here. Right.
No, it's you don't have to if you don't want to, but it is. But as you said, I think our joy of it is sincere. I think that's
Mhm.
obvious.
Yeah.
I think it's not. We're not doing drugs here. We're actually doing work. We're actually doing like this is serving a constructive
Right.
ends for each of us. Um, Join the party, or maybe fall
Catch
behind,
up?
or yeah,
Yeah.
well, yeah, yeah. You may get left behind. You may get
You
left
may
behind.
get left behind.
Yeah,
All right, guys. Well, thank you again for being here. Jillian, thank you
my
for being my first guest.
my
I
pleasure.
appreciate you.
You
All
too.
right, guys. Have an amazing day.